All right, we got a lot to cover on today's podcast. Lots of Jazz games happening since our last episode. 4 games to cover in total. We got 2 games, bookend games against the Hawks with a road trip on that. That was a complete flop of a road trip. So we're going to get into that, why we think the Jazz's road trip sucks so bad. Stay tuned. Keep in mind, again, what we were doing is the Fight for the Fight. We do think that's a great cause. However, we have had someone close to us, a friend, a close family friend, whose son has come down with a pretty significant illness. His name's Wyatt. And so at this point, what we're going to do is we are actually going to take those donations and we're going to contribute it to that family, to Wyatt. And hopefully he's able to recover quickly. Our prayers go out to that family. And if you would like to donate, or if you have anything that you can do to help that family, please let us know. Like I said, we're going to do a $1 match for every subscriber that we get between now and the end of the year. And again, at this point, we're making a little pivot here. We're changing from Fight for the Fight to contribute those donations to Wyatt and his family. So please subscribe. If you can't donate, that's the easiest thing you can do, is you can hit that subscribe button, and that'll have us contribute $1 towards the family. Thanks. All right, to start the show, we want to make sure that we address people's comments, questions, concerns. Congratulations to us, right? Pat ourselves on the back. So yeah, a couple shout outs here. First off, Christina, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. For those of you who don't know, Christina has actually a really, really cool Jazz story that we're actually going to share, but we're going to wait closer to like Valentine's Day. So stay tuned for that. Also, thanks, Brian. Appreciate the info on Jordan Clarkson. And then Carson Perry had a question for us, and this is one I wanted to ask you as well, Dylan. So Carson writes, would you say Karl Anthony Towns is the same level as Zach LaVine? I think Cat is super overrated, more overrated than LaVine. Just want to know your thoughts. And of course, this comes after Dylan's hot take that Zach LaVine's overrated last podcast. So what do you think? Karl Anthony Towns, same level as LaVine, are they overrated?
I think Karl Anthony Towns might be more overrated than Zach LaVine.
So I think Karl Anthony Towns has a lot of talent.
Yeah.
I think he is the most lazy basketball player I've ever seen. That guy has all the gifts and natural ability in the world. If he would put some effort into developing his skill set and his craft, he would be dominant.
Well, and it's not even effort into develop. I think he's developed. In games, he is just so, like I said, lazy. He doesn't put forth any effort.
No effort.
And there are peaks where he will get like angry and decide he wants to try and looks so dominant.
Yeah. Can you imagine? I was thinking about this after I saw this question. Can you imagine if Karl Anthony Towns played on the Lakers team with Kobe Bryant? How would Kobe Bryant treat Karl Anthony Towns?
He'd make him cry.
Yeah. He would not put up with the laziness. So yeah, Carson, we agree with you. Cat's overrated. Should not be an all-star. He's on a Minnesota team that just can't get it together. But anyway. Also, Nick Olson, thank you. It's interesting how they're number 3 in the league in points per game and number 3 in opponents' points per game. They've got a 12-point spread on average. They're a well-rounded team, but you win some, you lose some. That's true. I agree with that, Nick. The thing that's really interesting now is after these most recent games, the Jazz are actually the number 1 offensive team in the NBA right now, which is surprising. I mean, Quinn is always coaching and pushing defense, which I think is important too, but it kind of surprises me that we're number 1 considering what I would say is a terrible start to the season shooting wise.
Yeah, shooting wise, I think they do look pretty bad. My biggest concern offensively, I think, we've talked about when Mike Conley's not there, they look pretty bad.
Yeah.
But my biggest concern is defensively, they at times become so focused on offense and, getting up a ton of shots and stuff that defense, it seems like Rudy's everybody's just like, well, I'll just funnel him to Rudy. Rudy will protect me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit more later too, that I feel like there are specific individual players that are defensive liabilities, and so much so that I don't think they should be on the floor. at all.
Bogdanovich.
Joe Ingles.
Yeah.
Anyway, which is hard to say because like both those guys are like Utah loves them, and I don't get it. Anyway, moving on. Last comment, last thing here that we wanted to point out. Abby Smith says that she takes the under on Jordan Clarkson. So Dylan, do you want to explain what that comment means a little bit more? Because I'm a little too embarrassed to talk about it anymore.
So, bet last video, we made the bet. Jordan Clarkson over under for the next, what was it? Three games was
over
20.
the road trip, 20 points.
20 points over under. I chose the under. Chris chose the over.
He scored 30 game one.
And I predicted that too.
Yes. And I was thinking 30 points game one. Like, we got this. Like, I'm going to get the over on this. And then he tanks.
Yep.
That's terrible.
So winner, chicken dinner.
And we got Chick-fil-A again today.
And we got Chick-fil-A again. And you bought me the Chick-fil-A again.
So there you go. I did that in prep. I knew that was coming.
Yeah.
Right? So anyway, Abby, you win too. Abby, I'm going to send, where's my phone? My phone's recording, duh. Abby, I'm going to send you rewards points and you're going to get a chicken dinner on us. Winner, Chick-fil-A, chicken sandwich. We're going to send that to you. Okay. So yeah, thanks again for the comments, guys. We really love the interaction. It's why we do this show. We don't want to just hear our own thoughts. We want to hear everybody's thoughts on this, right? So really appreciate the comments. Moving on to Atlanta. First time we play Atlanta's in Atlanta. Jazz finished the game 116-98. As we kind of alluded on, Jordan Clarkson has a really good game, hits 30 points. The interesting thing, though, is it was kind of a slowish start, not much happening, and then goes off in the second half.
Yeah, really heated up in that second half.
So, I mean, you look at this game, and the Jazz look great, right? Like, there's some amazing things that happen in this game. Looks really good. The Jazz play a well-rounded game. The only comment I really have on this game, and it happens again on the Atlanta game at home, why in the world are we double-teaming Trae Young 100 feet from the basket?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's this notion in everybody's mind that Trae Young is just this elite three-point shooter, but he's really inconsistent.
Yeah.
I think in no way does a team need to double him until he starts hitting threes, and he goes 0 for 4 in that game, and so it boggles my mind as well. Like, why do you double him so far away from the basket? He's 0 for 4 from 3, goes 8 for 20 from the field.
Yeah, like I understand wanting to get the ball out of his hands. I think that is a key thing, but I don't think that trying to trap him in the backcourt where he just throws it over the top of the defense easily, and now all of a sudden it seems like they've got a 3-on-2 fast break every time they did that. Like, they scored every time we did that.
Yeah.
I like I said, I understand the concept of get the ball out of his hands. You don't want him creating. You don't want him hitting those threes. But, man, I felt like we went to that way too early. Like, nothing had happened yet, and yet we're double teaming him in the backcourt.
So we win pretty big on that.
Yeah.
No Donnie.
Yeah, that was interesting. That was nice to see.
I don't think that's a huge, I don't know. It's hard to make a great analysis on the Jazz versus the Hawks because the Hawks are bad.
I disagree.
I think the Hawks are horrible.
I think the Hawks may have a bad record. However, I look at that team, and I think that's a pretty complete team with Bogdanovich, Capella, Collins, Gallinari, Herter, Hunter's a good player, Cam Reddish. I'm a big Duke guy, so I always love those guys. Lou Williams, Trae Young. Like, I think they got some players. I just think they haven't. It's interesting how well they did last year, and now this year the record just isn't showing up.
So I agree. I think John Collins is really good. Capella, I don't want to say he's really good, but
Not
he's
really
solid.
good, but he's a solid. Yeah, he's solid center.
Bogdanovich, solid. Trae Young, I don't know. Inconsistent, can be great, can be just a huge train wreck.
I need to get a soundboard, and the number one sound anytime you start talking
Solid.
about it. No, talking about an all-star. I'm going to start hitting the overrated.
Yeah.
Dylan, you go to the overrated.
Yeah, It's just their team is filled with guys who were once really good players, but are kind of on the downward end of their career.
Some of them, but some of these guys are young, man.
Yeah,
Some
Trae
of them are
Young. Capella, you can't even really say it's like young
he's
anymore.
Not young.
John Collins
is young.
Younger, yeah.
Herder's young.
Herder's young. Herder
Reddish?
is horrible, though, in my opinion.
On D.
Yeah, well, I don't care how many points you score. If you give up more points than what you scored, like you're not a good player.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that more once we get to that second Hawks game.
Let's move on to that second Hawks game. I want to cover these 2 wins against the Hawks and then do a really, really deep dive on the
losses.
Total collapse on the losses. Yeah. So Jazz played against the Hawks at home.
Herder is one of the worst defenders I have seen. That game, go watch the full highlights.
Better or worse than Joe Ingles?
Worse. Go, at least, I don't know how, but he's worse. But go watch the full highlights on YouTube. You'll see Herder that, like, in the first half, probably 70% of baskets made were made on him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, I don't care how many points you drop. If you give up way more points than you scored,
I think the Jazz made a very conscious effort in the game at home to run the pick and roll with whoever Herder or Trae Young was guarding.
So, again, he has 28 points. Oh, wow. Like, that looks great.
Yeah.
His plus minus is minus 20, which is the worst on the team. He scores the most points, but has the worst plus minus.
And Trae Young scored the second most goals for 27 and has the second worst plus minus with minus 15.
And keep in mind, minutes-wise, Clint Capella has the same amount of minutes as Trae Young, and he's a minus 6 compared to the minus 15 of Trae Young.
I think.
And John Collins is a 0. I think John Collins is pretty solid because he gives you some stuff offensively. He's decent offensively, but I think he's pretty dang good defender as well.
So here's my other take from the second Hawks game. Jazz win 110-98, right? But going into that game, we had just come off the 2 losses. One to Miami, which it's like, yeah, that sucks, but Miami's a good team. And then the loss to Orlando that I was like, we're terrible. What are we doing?
Yeah,
how do you lose to Orlando? Anyway, so coming off those 2, bogey hater, right? Bogey hater. So after that, and after the loss to Orlando, which I felt like he played terrible in, I going into the second Hawks game was like, I'm going to watch every single possession that Bogey touches the ball, and I'm going to keep note, and I'm going to write down everything that he does wrong so I can talk about it on the show. So people don't think it's just like that my disdain for this man is coming from nowhere, right? So I start writing it down, and of course in the first quarter, Bogey goes off, has a really good first quarter, and does really good. Like, he was making the right reads in the first quarter. I was like, oh man, like, where's this guy been? Like, what in the world, where's this been? So I stop keeping note because I'm like, oh, he's playing good. I'm not going to do this. Yeah, he's doing good. I'm going to look like an idiot if I talk about how bad he is on the podcast, and he played really good. And then, lo and behold, second and third quarter, he does terrible, and I'm just like, you've got to be kidding me, man. Like, his reads are so bad. There was, against that Hawks game, there was a very specific instance that stood out to me. 2 offensive possessions in a row. One of them, he comes down, comes off the pick and roll, drives to the basket, gets double teamed by Capella and whoever else was on him. I don't even know who was guarding him. Anyway, but he's double teamed. Rudy Gobert is standing wide open under the basket, wide open. And Bogdanović tries to put up a shot and gets swatted by Capella. Capella's probably laughing like, dude, there was no way you were getting that off. Terrible basketball IQ. Very next possession, he comes down, same play, gets double teamed. Here comes Capella with the double team. Oh, wait, he bluffed, he faked it. Capella backs up, but yet Bogdanović can't make the read and tries to throw the lob to Rudy. And Capella doesn't even have to jump and just grabs the ball because it was so terrible.
Yeah, his basketball IQ. It's like he makes up in his mind what he's going to do before he has a chance to read the defense. It's like, okay, I'm going to do this.
How in the world do they only have him down for 2 turnovers that game?
Yeah, he's bad in that Orlando game. Going back to that, I don't think there was a single player on that Jazz team that had a good game.
No.
I think Whiteside played okay.
Orlando first and then Miami?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Orlando, Whiteside has a decent game. Rudy Gobert, again, I can't say decent. He had a good game, 21 and 15.
Yeah.
But here's
complain.
where it's Wendell Carter Jr. has 22 points and 15 rebounds, 6 assists. Mo Bamba has 9 points, 7 rebounds, and I don't think Mo Bamba is good at all.
No.
Wendell Carter Jr. I think is good, but he's not 22 and 15 good.
He dominated that game.
Yeah.
It was a plus 21.
And then the worst part of all of this is Cole Anthony. How do you let that guy drop 33 points on you?
Yeah. Nah, I was so pissed after this game. Like, I was ready to quit doing the podcast. I was like, these guys are terrible. Why are we doing this? But I overreact. My wife will be the first to tell you. I'm like, we're great. We suck. We're great. We suck.
I'm just amazed. 17 turnovers for the Jazz compared to the Orlando 13, as well as the Jazz shoot 19% from 3, go 8 for 42. And we've talked about this before when Mike Conley didn't play.
Yeah.
When Mike Conley is not on the floor offensively, the Jazz fall apart and the ball gets swung around the perimeter and we jack up a bunch of threes that aren't good threes, are contested.
Yeah.
And the ball hasn't moved at all in offense. There's way too much dribbling. So when you have way too much dribbling and no congruency offensively, that's when you get the 17 turnover and shooting 19% from 3 type games.
Yeah. Yeah. And at some point, like if you're shooting 19% from the 3-point line, I
When you do
understand
something
you keep
different.
shooting. But yeah, at what point when you're 8 for 42, are you like, yeah, this isn't working tonight.
Yeah.
Like I got to get to the rim. Donovan Mitchell did okay at that. He finishes with 21, 7, and 7. So, I mean, he's on like triple-double watch on that game, but
Goes 2 for 12 from 3.
yeah, it wasn't enough. And even though at the end of the game the stats look fine, yeah, 8 for 24 from the field, 2 for 12 from 3. Like, it's not good enough. Like we need him to be better. And it's hard because we do put so much on him.
Especially when Mike Conley's not in the game.
Yeah. I mean, Donovan Mitchell's got to carry I would say the biggest load on the team, right? Like
Yeah.
he's got to carry a lot. And yeah, it's just amazing to me how terrible we are without Mike Conley.
We are terrible when Donovan Mitchell's bringing the ball up the court.
Yeah, or Joe. Joe moves into the starting
Yeah, but
lineup.
Joe's just terrible in himself. But Donovan Mitchell, like...
Joe Ingles is old. Joe Ingles needs to retire.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm calling for it. Joe Ingles retire.
He is so
Mid-season.
lazy now. Everything that made Joe Ingles good before is gone.
Yeah, we don't know these people, right, on an individual basis. Wish we did, but we don't. So in my mind, I also can't help but think, is there something going on, like in his personal life? Because he looks so disinterested.
Yeah.
Every game he looks like he's just like, well, I guess I'm here.
Show up, got to get my paycheck and
Yeah,
head
I'm
home
done.
after.
See ya.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's no effort there from him. Bogdanovich at least puts forth an effort, but it's a Tasmanian
Selfish.
devil train wreck. Anyway, yeah, so one thing I wanted to talk about, though, on this game that was kind of surprising on the Orlando Magic game, we do not see Jared Butler. Trent Forrest gets the minutes in place of Mike Conley and gets 15 minutes. Thoughts?
Trent Forrest is never going to be, I don't know. I think right now he is better than Butler, but he has more experience. But I think Jared Butler is ultimately going to be a better player than Trent Forrest, and I think we should give those minutes to him. I think you're such a liability having Trent Forrest on the floor that can't shoot the 3. And I think he's had a few more minutes this year as well. I think Jared Butler just needs to get a little bit more comfortable playing on the court. And with time, as he becomes more comfortable, becomes a better player. But I don't know. That's probably the Jazz's biggest weak spot is when Mike Conley's not playing. Not only does the offense suck and go to craps, but who's our backup point guard?
So here's an interesting stat for you. I know Butler hasn't shot the 3 well, but at least he shoots it.
Yeah.
Like the ball goes up. Trent Forrest so far this year, in the regular season, let's see here. Sorry. Trent Forrest has played 55 total minutes in the regular season. In those 55 minutes, he has attempted 4 shots. He's gone 2 for 4. Not a single one of them from the 3-point line. Not one. And in those 55 minutes, he has 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 turnovers. So,
he's a placeholder.
He's a placeholder. I like his defense.
Yeah.
The guy plays hard. He tries to get to the paint. But I think every single team that plays against the Jazz, when he's on the floor, it's like, this guy's not a threat.
Yeah.
This guy's not going to do anything. Versus, even though he's not necessarily putting up huge numbers, I feel like other teams, when Butler comes in, you've got to guard him.
Yeah.
You've got to guard Jared Butler, and you just don't have to guard Trent Forrest.
Well, and he creates offensively, then that's where the Jazz are lacking, is someone being able to create shots. I think Jared Butler does a good job getting inside the key, kicking the ball out, creating open looks for other guys. And Donovan Mitchell in that lineup is the only other person who can create shots when Michael Conley's out.
So this is interesting. So here you go. So comparatively now, Jared Butler's numbers, 45 minutes, so 10 less minutes in the regular season, compared to Trent Forrest 2 for 4 on field goal shooting. Jared Butler is 4 for 18. So definitely not making a whole lot more, but definitely shooting a heck of a lot more.
Again, he's a rookie. Like, I think he just isn't comfortable right now. And we've seen that first game, he threw up, I think, a couple air balls, right?
Yeah, six rebounds, 6 assists, 6 turnovers. Here's a really interesting number. How many blocks would you guess Jared Butler has so far this year? 45 minutes.
0.
He's got 5. He's got 5 blocks. That's crazy. What is he? 6'3", 6'3", 190. 5 blocks in 45 minutes.
I think they need to give him those minutes.
I agree. I'd like to see. I think Trent Forrest has reached his peak.
Yeah.
I don't see him getting any better. Jared Butler, there is a lot that could happen there to make him a much better player, and the development could happen.
His ceiling is so much higher than Trent Forrest could ever be.
Yeah. So next time you run into Quinn,
I'll let him know.
Even Stevens.
When we go golfing next week, I'll tell.
Okay.
I'll tell Quinn Snyder.
Okay. Country club. Right. So
actually, when we go skating next week with how he dresses,
yeah,
I don't think he's a golfer.
Yeah. So, yeah, Orlando Magic game, super frustrating. Okay. Miami Heat. This game to me was the one that I was just like, what are we doing? Because the Heat come out, they jump on us early, right? Let's see here. There's some points there in the second quarter that they're up 12 on us, right? We only led for like the first 6 minutes of the game. Not even that. First 5 minutes of the game, we had a lead. Other than that, we never really led. So they go up double digits in the second quarter. We cut it down at the half to 3, I think, 4, something like that. They come back out in the third quarter, push it up again. Again, towards the end of the third, we cut it down to single digits again. And then in the fourth quarter, at one point, we're down 18 points with 6 minutes left, something like that. And then we go on this run. We end up losing on a last-second shot by Donovan Mitchell that I think he shot way too early. There was way too much time left when he jacked that up. I think he could have got a better shot. But anyway, we end up losing by 3 on a last-second shot against the Heat. But let's dive into the numbers on this one, because I do think this is really interesting. Donovan goes for 37. He shoots 50% from the field. Just has a tear of a game. Clarkson gets back into another slump, right? He's back in another slump. Even though he's hit a couple, he's not 0 for 18 like he was earlier in the year. He's still sucking it up. But the most important thing I want to look at this game is Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, and I've said this before, when he plays against centers who are physical, Jokic, Karl Anthony Towns, Bam, and I wouldn't have thrown Bam in that list until this game.
Yeah.
These centers that are a little bit more physical, he backs down so much. Yeah. I think he has such a hard time rising to the occasion when he's playing against centers who are physical.
So numbers wise, comparing Rudy Gobert to Hassan Whiteside. And granted, Hassan probably had a little bit of an edge, right? He's returning to Miami. He wants to play well against a former team. Rudy Gobert, 8 points, 8 rebounds, 1 block. In 28 minutes, he's a minus 20. Whiteside, on the other hand, 6 points, so 2 less points, 8 rebounds, same amount of rebounds, 1 block, same there. Yet Whiteside is a plus 17.
In 19 minutes, so 10 minutes less than Rudy as
So
well.
you're talking a 37-point difference between Gobert and Whiteside. Whiteside's tough.
Yeah, I think Rudy just backs down from any challenge. Bam played okay. It wasn't like he had this amazing game, but he's just so much more physical than Rudy. And so the biggest part of this loss for me comes down to defense, shooting percentages. The Jazz shot well. They were 33% from three, 51% from the field overall, 74% from free throw line. So like all those numbers should lead to a win.
Yeah.
Especially when you shoot 45 threes and you're 33%. Like that's not bad.
Yeah.
Obviously that's not great. You want to be a little bit higher than that. But the Heat, 60% from the field, 52.5% from three.
Those are the killers.
Yeah.
And my question for you is, are those just outliers that the Heat were just hot that night, or did the Jazz play bad defense?
I think the Jazz played bad defense.
Yeah.
I think you can see that in Rudy Gobert's numbers, for one. Rudy Gobert doesn't look like, that defensive presence that he normally is. As well as, I think Royce O'Neal is probably the only one who stepped up defensively.
Yeah.
He has 6 steals that game, so I don't want to throw him in the category with everybody else.
Royce has been playing well.
Yeah, he's just solid.
Yeah, he's been playing well. Tyler Hero kills you that game with 29 points, going 6 for 8 from the 3-point line. Like, at what point do you just force that guy off the line?
Yeah, and Jimmy Butler, this is impressive. 27 points, doesn't shoot a single three.
Yeah. Again, that kind of takes me back to the Levine and the DeRozan stuff, though. Like, the Jazz at the rim and the mid-range, I think it kills us.
Yeah.
This game, the 3 killed us too, but I think you get a guy that's good at the mid-range or at the rim, and our defense, I just don't think is
and I think
around stopping that.
I think a lot of that has to do with the structure of the Jazz's defense is centered around guarding the perimeter and having Rudy, in the middle, funneling to Rudy. And so that mid-range, as soon as that guard gets around that guy who's on the perimeter, Rudy's underneath the basket. He doesn't step out past that key.
Sometimes he has to, like when he's guarding Bam. But
I mean when he's helping.
Yeah.
So when he's helping on somebody, he's not stepping outside of that key. So when you have a guard that can get around that, the perimeter defense, our mid-range is just completely exposed.
Yeah. Yeah. All in all, like, I get over the course of these games, we go 2-2, 2 wins against Atlanta, beat them there and at home, 2 losses, Miami and Orlando.
And again, lose to Miami,
Yeah.
they're a good team.
It is what it is.
But Orlando,
they got 3 wins on the season, including us. Like,
Orlando,
they're a bad team. Bad team. So, I don't know. Like, I really don't know how I feel about the Jazz right now in the season. I think there's still a lot that we as a team got to figure out. Like, there are good things happening. We look amazing for certain quarters and certain stretches of the game. And then there's other parts of the game that you're just scratching your head.
Yeah.
So coming up, we've got the game. We film these, in case you guys don't know. We film these on Thursdays, right? So it's hard for us if there's a Thursday night game. We're not going to talk about that. So we're filming today. So tonight they've got Indiana at home. That should be a win. And then the game
we said that about Orlando too.
Yeah, right. The game I'm most looking forward to, though, is the rematch. Miami's back in town on Saturday. Does Rudy Gobert, that's one thing we didn't talk about. Rudy Gobert gets benched at the end of that game. Whiteside finishes that game. So does Rudy Gobert get revenge against Miami this Saturday and come out and put up big numbers to say, hey, I know I sucked it up against Miami in Miami and I got benched for it. I'm going to show you this game that was a fluke.
Yeah. And then next week, Tuesday, Philadelphia on TNT. I like that.
I love that. Yep. Those are always good ones when you can be a nationally televised game. So yeah, those 3 games are going to be good. Like I said, there's another Thursday game next week against Toronto, so we won't cover that in our next show. But we've got 3 games coming up. Pacers, Heat, Sixers. Dylan, next 3, win-loss.
3-0.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, I think
the thing that is huge right now is the Jazz's next games are home games. I mean, we've got, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
A lot of home games for this next stretch.
Yeah. 8 of our next 10 are at home.
Yeah. And so, biggest reason why I think they're going 3-0 at home. And then they have a break in between each game. You go Thursday, Saturday, Tuesday. So Mike Conley's going to be playing. Yeah. And they, the Jazz got a few older guys. I think that's going to go a long ways for them.
Okay. Well, I hope so. We can go 3-0. I'll be feeling pretty good about it because right now it kind of kills me to see Golden State sitting atop the standings with no Klay Thompson.
Yeah.
So,
good for them though.
Yeah, you can't help but
it's hard to hate. And it's hard to hate on a team that really doesn't have, your typical superstars. You got Steph Curry, but I think that's about it right now.
So we both think 3-0. If the Jazz go 3-0 over this next stretch, that puts them at 11-3 on the season. Golden State's currently sitting at 9-1 on the season. The Golden State Warriors, their next 3 are, they've got the Bulls at home, then they're at the Brooklyn Nets, and then at the Pistons. I could see Golden State losing the next 2. And if they lose the next 2 and we win the next 3, puts us a game behind them if they can beat Detroit. So we're right there, and like we learned last year, whether we finish first in the West or not, it doesn't matter. You got to win playoffs. You got to win playoff games. So, okay. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate it. If you made it this far, leave us a comment. Ask us questions that you have, predictions you may have about the upcoming 3 games. Do you think the Jazz are capable of going 3-0 at home? The other thing that we wanted to leave with you too, a little tidbit. So we do this show, right? We talked a little bit about our backgrounds in basketball and stuff. Dylan is actually doing some skills training stuff now. So if you've got kids, well, let me have Dylan tell you about this.
Yeah, any kids, I think above kindergarten age, all through high school, skills training. Got quite a few parents who we got scheduled down right now, so we can always squeeze in more time slots. Just give me a comment on the YouTube video, send me a message. Any way to get in contact, we'll get in touch and schedule that in. But yeah, I'm helping kids all through Davis County. Weber County's fine too. We got gym time available weekends and at later nights during weekdays.
Do group trainings, one-on-one trainings, and you can either have it be a one-time thing, or if you want, recurring trainings, you've got that option too. So pretty flexible. We want to try and give back, and we love the game. We love what it's done for us in our lives, and so we're always trying to find ways to be involved and have basketball continue on in our lives. So thanks, you guys. Appreciate it. Go Jazz. Take note.